Welcome to my channel, USA Battle Zone. Today, you're about to hear a story that will stay with you long after it ends. A story about loyalty, secrets, and the kind of courage that doesn't come from rank or medals, but from the heart. The hangar was almost empty that night. The air hummed with the faint echo of jet turbines cooling off in the distance, and the smell of jet fuel mixed with rain coming through the open bay doors. Under the fluorescent lights, a young woman named Emily Carter moved quietly between the rows of aircraft, pushing her cleaning cart. She wasn't a soldier, not officially, anyway. She worked maintenance, cleaning cockpits and wiping down the control panels of planes that had just come back from missions she wasn't cleared to know about. Emily liked the quiet hours. There was something peaceful about being surrounded by the metal beasts that touched the edge of the sky. She'd grown up near a base. Her father was a pilot once, but she'd never imagined she'd be here, under the same kind of steel wings that had carried him away years ago, and never brought him back. She didn't talk about that part. It was nearly midnight when she rolled her cart up to Raven 6, an F-22 that had just come back from a classified operation. The plane looked scarred, its paint darkened by smoke and dust. She climbed up carefully, the ladder creaking under her boots. Her hand brushed the side of the cockpit canopy, warm still. The pilot had landed not even an hour ago. As she reached into the cockpit to start wiping down the instruments, her rag caught on something wedged between the seat and the console. She pulled it free, a patch. Black cloth, embroidered with a silver eagle clutching a lightning bolt. Around the edge, faded words read, "Ghost Squadron." Emily froze. Her breath hitched, and for a moment the sounds of the hangar faded away. Ghost Squadron. She knew that name. Everyone did, at least the rumors. A unit that officially didn't exist, made up of pilots who were supposed to have died in missions that never happened. Her father used to tell her bedtime stories about a squadron like that. Stories about pilots who flew into impossible storms and came back only as names whispered in the dark. Her fingers trembled as she turned the patch over. On the back, written in faint ink, were 3 letters, DCC. Her father's initials, David Cole Carter. Before she could even process it, a deep voice broke the silence. "Where did you find that?" Emily spun around. Commander Jonathan Rains stood there, tall, broad-shouldered, still in flight gear, the glow of the hangar light catching the silver streaks in his hair. His face was calm, but his eyes had gone pale as frost. I was just cleaning, sir," Emily stammered. "It was stuck in the—" "Give it to me," he said, stepping forward. Something in his tone stopped her cold. It wasn't anger. It was fear. Emily hesitated, clutching the patch. "Sir, this has my father's initials. David Cole Carter. He flew with the—" Rains's expression hardened. "You shouldn't be saying that name. Not here. I just want to know." "You don't understand what you're holding," he said sharply. "Put it down." But Emily didn't move. "He never came home. You were his commander, weren't you?" Rains didn't answer. His gaze flickered toward the far end of the hangar, where the cameras blinked red in the shadows. Then he said quietly, "Follow me." They walked in silence across the hangar, past the rows of aircraft and out into the storm. Rain drummed on the pavement as they crossed to a dimly lit storage bay. Inside, it smelled of oil and dust. Old mission crates lined the walls. Rains closed the door behind them, sealing out the sound of the rain. He leaned against a crate and sighed. Ghost Squadron wasn't supposed to exist. It was a test group, Black Ops Aviation. We flew missions even the Pentagon didn't want to sign off on. Your father was one of the best. Emily's throat tightened. Then why did they tell us his jet went down in the Pacific? Because that's what they needed everyone to believe. Rains opened one of the crates. Inside were patches, identical to the one she held. Dozens of them. "They called us ghosts for a reason," he continued. "We were the ones they sent when there was no margin for error. If we died, we never existed. If we succeeded, someone else took the credit." He looked at her. "Your father saved my life. On a mission over enemy territory, we were hit. My jet was burning. I punched out, but my chute tore. He stayed back, tried to guide me in. He didn't make it out." Emily blinked back tears. "You could have told us." "I wasn't allowed to," Rains said, his voice cracking. "I wanted to, but they buried the entire operation. They erased him. Emily looked down at the patch again, the silver eagle gleaming faintly under the flickering light. Then why was it in your jet tonight? Rains froze. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he reached into his flight suit and pulled out a small metal dog tag. Scorched, bent, the name David C. Carter barely visible. I keep it with me, he said quietly. Every mission. Because I still owe him. Emily's breath caught. She reached for the tag, but before she could touch it, the sound of footsteps echoed outside the door. Rains's eyes went sharp. Hide the patch, now. She slipped it into her pocket as the door swung open. Two men in black uniforms stepped inside, security officers. One spoke into a radio. Commander Rains, ma'am, we need to see your credentials. We've had an alert from Central Command, unauthorized personnel accessing restricted hangars. Emily's heart pounded. Rains stepped in front of her. She's with me, he said firmly. The taller guard frowned. With you. She's civilian maintenance. Under my authorization, Rains said. Now stand down. The guards exchanged looks, uncertain. Then the radio on one of their shoulders crackled with static. A voice came through, low, distorted. Bring them both in. Rains cursed under his breath. He turned to Emily. We don't have much time. Before she could speak, he grabbed a small black case from the crate and pushed it into her hands. If they take me in, they'll destroy everything, all proof of Ghost Squadron, of your father. This drive has the mission logs. Keep it safe. Commander, he shook his head. No time. Go through the maintenance tunnel behind the crates. It leads to the east gate. What about you? He smiled faintly, the kind of smile that hides pain. Someone has to stall them. The door burst open wider. The guards stepped forward, shouting orders. Emily ducked behind the crates as Rains raised his hands, drawing their attention. She slipped through the narrow passage, heart hammering, the sound of raised voices echoing behind her. Then, a gunshot. She froze. The sound rang out like thunder, then silence. Emily pressed her hand against her mouth, trembling. She wanted to turn back. But she remembered what he'd said, keep it safe. So she ran. Hours later, the base was in lockdown. The official report said Commander Rains had been detained for questioning over protocol violations. Nothing more. His name was wiped from the mission logs. But Emily knew the truth. She left the base that night with the black case in her backpack and the patch in her hand. Weeks later, she opened the files, video footage, radio logs, encrypted reports. Proof that her father's final mission hadn't been an accident. Proof that Ghost Squadron had been real. One clip played over and over in her mind, cockpit footage of her father's voice. Greater than, if this message ever gets out, tell my little girl the sky's still ours. Tears streamed down her face as she closed the laptop. The world would never know what he'd done. But she would, and maybe that was enough. She visited his old grave one last time, the one with no real body beneath it. She placed the patch on the headstone, brushed her hand over the engraved words, David Cole Carter, lost in service. Then she whispered, you were never lost. You were just unseen. As the sun set behind her, she looked up at the sky, and for a moment, she swore she heard it, the faint, distant roar of an F-22 engine cutting through the clouds.